You're listening to the Things About Nature podcast. Coming to you from a city that never sleeps is me, your host, Rockshana. I invite you to join me in truly honest, passionate, and fun talks that motivate, invigorate, and maybe inspire. Even though we're no longer in the mile high, the sky is still the limit. Everything and anything goes. So let's start talking about things of that nature. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Things About Nature podcast. I'm your host, Rockshana, and today I'm welcoming us all back to me just making friends, us learning and being inspired by all these people around us. We're in a world where we're not really reaching out, we're texting everyone once in a while, but podcasts are easy because you can just turn it on your Spotify, turn it on anywhere really, and just make a new friend. I just happen to make friends who are just all around. So today, our guest is Scot Olhgren. I said that wrong, didn't I?
That's okay. It's close. Olhgren.
Olhgren. Yikes. And I said it a couple of times in my mind.
That's okay. It's a weird name.
So, hey, Scot, how are you today?
Good. Really glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Now, what part of the world are you?
I actually lived near Denver for many, many years. I was a Coloradoan for 35 years. And then we just recently, we're in our 60s now, so we wanted a little bit easier weather. So we moved to Florida about 4 years ago. And so we're now in Sarasota, Florida. But born and raised in Wisconsin, and lived as we had discussed just before, I've lived all over the world: South Africa, Europe, Australia, Israel. I came from a small town, so I was so hungry to meet, people from all over. And so I did it through traveling, but yeah.
That's awesome. So do you think if you came from a bigger town, would you still have the urge to travel?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have caught it or not. My dad traveled for his work. He was kind of like a traveling salesperson. He later on became the CEO of the company, but for many, many years he traveled. And when he would come back, we were all just mesmerized by the exotic places that he was going, So I think there was 5 of us kids, and we all scattered like the wind as soon as we turned 18.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's kind of, I think kids, no matter where you are, once they turn like 18, they're like, all right, we're just going to go and explore the world and figure it out on our own, kind of, maybe. Not
all of them, man. I hear, I scratch my head at the kids who are living in their basements till they're 30 or something. I just, man, I know you've traveled quite a bit too. I didn't have 2 pennies, but I knew I wanted to get out there. So that's what I did. And I wanted to recreate myself. I didn't like kind of the box that I'd been put in. And I thought, I'm not that. I don't know who I am yet, but I know I'm not that. And it was through traveling that I realized, okay, I get it. I'm starting to get who I am and what I like. And I really love people, and I like to challenge myself. So that's how I got into it.
Oh, I like that. And I got to agree on that too. Once you start seeing different things, different cultures, it helps you kind of narrow down and find who you are and explore.
Yeah. It also opens your mind. I think probably one of the alarming things I see going on right now is kind of the black and white thinking, because, when that doesn't come from travelers. Travelers are more adept at realizing every place is different, and you want to learn, how would people handle it here? How do they dance? How do Senegal dancing? And you kind of learn and pick up things, and you realize, okay, well, I don't know it all, and these people are kind of interesting, and so you learn to kind of dance with things instead of it being all black and white.
That's true.
This is interesting that this is turning into a travel podcast. Go travel. Yay.
Go travel. Go do it. Explore the world.
Yeah.
So while you're traveling, or I guess while you were finding yourself, how did you get yourself into the world of wellness?
Yeah. Well, my own lack of, I'm 65. So When I was growing up, we were classic 1950s, early 60s food diet, and it would really turn to crap. And I just I had things, problems going on even when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. And I just figured, well, that's just who I am. And I read a book. I read one book on that tied the diet disease, diet health connection. And it was like a light bulb went on in my head. And I became just completely enamored with the thing. I want to study this. I want to do this. And then, as is oftentimes the case, and you wonder, if it's like luck, do you think it's like guidance, is it fate? I don't know, but I bumped into people in my travels around the world who were deeply into natural foods and natural health. And I was very curious. So I would ask them lots of questions and get the books they were reading and the schools they were attending and how they dealt with things. And so when I got back from all that travel, I went and, this is back in the early 80s. There weren't that many alternative or natural food schools out there. The dietitians, they sucked. No offense, but they just didn't know. And they were kind of, they were still doing white bread and I don't know, they didn't know. So it took some pretty, innovative thinkers to create schools of thought around, more whole foods, more superfoods, and really start to see how do you clean up the mess inside you. So that was kind of how we did it back then. And so I went to a school called the Coochie Institute in Boston, and that's kind of was my start. And I was 27 years old when I graduated. I was traveling and hitchhiking around the world for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I got back and I immediately went and studied nutrition. And then I went to a school. I was really got into body work at the time. I went and studied a type of physical therapy called Rolfing, which was out of Boulder, Colorado. A great type of working with, straightening up the body. And it was from there I wrote my first book on the diet disease, diet health connection. And there weren't that many books back then. And I just felt like someone's not, they're not really saying it right, which is basically the idea was if you eat a really clean diet for a certain period of time, for a short period of time, you can reverse a lot of the degenerative problems going on just by cleaning up the metabolic waste that is in your, and now of course you have doctors teaching 10-day cleansing diets. So ta-da, they got it, and people now know about cleansing diets. They get it. And they enough people now saw the same results that we saw when we did these cleaning up diet, basically eating very simply, low on the food chain for a set period of time. And, you can reverse all sorts of things. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then figuring out how to make a living at it. I worked with superfood companies and became sales reps for people and everything. And then, at some point I realized, after I wrote some books on it, I realized, I really want to start my own company. And I think that's how you and I found each other was I started one of the first, what they call nootropic drink companies. Nootropic is the fancy word that they give for any kind of compound that increases cognition, increases some form of mental wellness, whether it's, better, better focus or better loss of brain fog, or in the mood area, lessening of anxiety, lessening of depression. So that's a nootropic. And mine was the first drink ever to be sold in Whole Foods. So that's kind of how I get into it. And that's what I've been doing now. But the cool thing is now is that the plant extraction technology has gotten so much better in the last few years that you can get these really, really potentized forms of these plants that for hundreds of years have shown to be helpful in some form of cognition. Mm. And that's what we're using in our latest formulas. And my biggest passion is to show people that in terms of mental health, which I'm so grateful that the world's talking about it. We even have a phrase, mental wellness or mental health. It's now everyone knows about it. And it's something that is okay. You're not embarrassed to talk about it. It's like, hey, it's cool. And right now, the two ways that most people are familiar with dealing with it are one, talk therapy, which is awesome. I mean, talking, look at you and I, we're talking to each other and people are listening and getting insights or have questions or disagreements, but you're talking it out. So that's the number one thing. But the other one is pharmaceuticals. And I think I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but I think it's a little bit like the wrong tool for most of the jobs. It's a little like, the big sledgehammer when really, guys, you could use a smaller hammer. And so I'm trying to turn the world on to the power of nature, the power of plants. And most of the plants that have these positive effects are not well known in the Western culture. They're known in Asian cultures. They're known in Asian medicine. They grow in India, Eastern India. So they're known in the Ayurvedic medical system. They're known in Africa, but they're not known here. And they're actually some of the most extraordinary plants for mental wellness. And on one other note on that, and then I'll shut up. In the news right now, one of the coolest things that's going on out there is the acknowledgement that there are certain plants, they're psychotropic plants, psychedelic plants, that are finally being allowed to be used in true psychiatry therapy sessions to help people with depression. Now, the things that I deal with are not in the psychotropic and they're not psychedelic plants, but the gratifying thing is that we are waking up to the extraordinary power that nature has been like this the whole time. Just take it. We can't speak for you. We can't yell, but here's the plants. Here's the plants that can help with mental wellness, that can help with depression, help with it, and help feed the brain and make the brain work better. So
that's pretty neat. That I did not know. So I guess I have some research and need to find some things out. Now, do you think that, when all of this was starting, did you get a lot of pushback? Like, no, what are you talking about? This is fine. You're crazy.
Oh God, yeah. To this day, anyone in natural wellness, just constantly getting pushback. I just actually posted on a group here because I don't know that much about the area. I happened to post. I said, "Hey, does anyone know a good chiropractor?" And the negativity that came about as chiropractic. I mean, just simple bone alignment, body alignment. So I just laughed. I just said, "Oh my God, it's 2021." Of course, you're going to always get pushback. So yes, constant pushback. I don't even understand it anymore. Other than I actually pointed to the black and white thinking. I actually think that so many humans at this point have got damaged brains that they can't be curious. They don't know how to be curious. All they know is how to be reactive. It's weird though. It's just weird. You would think that the natural state of humans, if you ever watch kids, they're just curious, they're open, and that's all it takes is be open to ideas. And if the methods we were using were so awesome and working, it's like, who cares? But they're not. Pharmaceuticals, even people who take pharmaceuticals, people who take Vyvanse, people who take antidepressants, no, it ultimately ain't working. It balances them out, but there's a price to pay. And hey, cool, you got yourself balanced, just like antibiotics can save your butt. But even people who take antibiotics go, good, I found antibiotics, I'm going to take them the rest of my life now. No, everyone knows it's a short-term thing. Whew, you're not dead. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep you on these 10 days, 30 days, 45 days. But in the meantime, you're going to repair your microbiome. You're going to repair your gut. And that's the way it is with these pharmaceuticals. They hey, good. All right, you're back. You're bipolar is not doing too many weird things. Your depression's not okay. Your anxiety's down. Now feed your brain.